Welcome back to our pocket building lessons here as we're reviewing many of our different tools and functions in Illustrator. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can cut a path apart, spread the cut pieces, and then join the paths back together as you are changing the shape for your pocket. So far, in several of our lessons of review, we have built our shapes using our shape tool, our pen tool. We have added points, moved points, added points and deleted points, and things. So let's just keep going with our lesson. In this one, you can choose whatever pocket you've been playing around with. I am going to go ahead and select the pocket that I made our beveled edges on, and I have it selected with my selection arrow, the black arrow. I will hold down my Alt Option key here till I get my double cursor and click and drag in order to bring a copy over onto another area of my artboard. Using my zoom tool to zoom in onto this one to work with. Actually, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. There we go. All right, I have positioned this so that I am centered on my grid. My sides are on a 1-inch line mark, and that way center is lined up also on a 1-inch mark. This will help me in where I'm going to wind up placing my points in order to cut it apart and spread them apart. Now you'll also notice here, let's review our attributes sections a bit. My shape is a solid fill. Remember, these two colors over here control the color of the border for the border square, and the solid one is the solid fill inside the shape. Right now these are filled with white. That is why inside my shapes you cannot see the grid through there. If you would like to see your grid through your shapes, remember that you can take it to a nothing fill. Make sure the object is selected. Make sure that the fill box is the one that's overlapping on the top. And real quick down here, you have a none fill. That way you can see through the shape. It really is up to you how you would like or prefer to work. Sometimes it's easier to actually have it filled in and see a shape you're dealing with, or to have it not filled in because you need to be able to see maybe some guidelines or something that would be hidden behind it. In this case, I'm actually going to take it to somewhat of a light gray so that you'll see some of the changes I'm actually going to make here on screen with this. So here's my object again, and we need to add a point at the center top and center bottom. So I'm going to select it, use my pen tool, and remember under the pen tool is the add anchor point. And I want to make sure I add it at the center, so I'm using my grid. The other thing that helps here too, in case you don't have it on, is Snap to Grid. It allows the cursor to get close enough and it will snap to that location. So I have my 2 points added here. That's what I need right now, because I'm going to split my pocket into, spread the pocket apart in order to actually create a pleat that would be folded back into place, so the finished pocket would be this size but have a pleat down the middle of it. So let's get our scissor tool. The scissor tool is buried underneath your eraser tool. And the scissor tool also has its direct shortcut, which is just the letter C. Now, the scissor tool doesn't really have any special icon with it, but it does kind of have a crosshair, and I want to get my cursor above a point I want to cut. Now, nothing really happens at first, but you can tell that you did cut this now. See how only half the pocket is highlighted, whereas the other half is not. So let's, there, now that I have my selection tool, it's identifying which half of this pocket is selected at one given as I click on it. So now to spread these apart, you can click and drag. With my Snap to Grid on, it actually does keep these kind of jumping apart. But a risk I take, especially if I don't have Snap to on, is that when I move to the side, I might move it up as well or down, and it's not in a straight line anymore. So I'm going to actually undo that move, and I want to remind you that your keyboard arrows are really the better way when pattern making to move things. That way you know you move them how many increments to the left or the right, but you can keep them straight, level, horizontal, or vertical, depending on how the move needs to be made. So one punch with an arrow will jump it 1/8 of an inch. If you hold down your shift key when you push your arrow key, it actually jumps it further than that. It'll jump 2 at a time. So now I have separated this, spread it 1 full inch, but I actually want to spread it 1 more full inch, so 2 full inches total. All right. The other reason why I filled this with a light gray so that you can see here an example better of a open-ended path. All right, an open-ended path is not a closed path like these shapes are, completely enclosed with a border. So this is open-ended, meaning the border line, the path here with the stroke, I clearly see, but between beginning and end anchor points, the fill is filled in, but there's no border there, thus the open path. Now we want to join these paths here. There's 2 ways we can do it, but I'm going to show you the pen tool in order to do that because I actually want to keep these points right where they are. I'm going to need to add some identifying marks here in a little bit that you will see. When drawing with the pen, I can pick up at an open-end path at this anchor point. Notice the cursor indicator. A asterisk or a star shows that I am going to start drawing brand new because I'm away from an anchor point. If I get close to an anchor point, notice that turns to a slash. It means pick up drawing with this path right here. So 1 click and now I am connected to that point. And when I get to this point, it is showing that I will connect to that path again. So I will click that. Now it looks like it's completely filled, but notice we still have a gap down here that does not have a border edge. So I'm going to get my pen cursor close to that, click to pick up on there, and now I am actually completely enclosing the path. Notice that the circle is showing next to my cursor. So I am doing that. The reason why I wanted to do those things is because I still want these points in place. They are going to help me put in some lines that would show where the fold lines will be for this pleat. That'll be in the next lesson though. So far now we have done some cutting and joining using the pen. So let's come over here and I am going to practice another cut and join example with you. So I'm using my rectangle tool. I'm just going to draw a rectangle. And let's add some points onto that rectangle. There we go. And I will put one there and there. I don't even know if they're very lined up, but in this case I think we'll be okay. And I am cutting those apart. Again, I will I need to make sure not just the single point is selected, but the whole object is selected. All right, now I have spread them apart. Here I've given myself about 5/8 of an inch. Now I want to join these back together. There is another function other than using the pen tool, which will leave these points in place and join it by extending a segment between the two. This one I can join the points and make them as one point again. Using my direct select, I am outside the object a little, drawing my little boundary box to collect both of these points. Notice they are in blue highlighted, whereas all these others are white. They are not in the selection. With these two highlighted, I can come up to my object menu down to path, and first I must actually average the points. I need to bring them to the same space on the artboard. So it will ask, do I need to bring them the average of between the two? I'm going to do that. Horizontal or vertical, it would leave one in one place and the other would move in that direction, but both will be averaging halfway between the distance. I will click OK. Now, it looks like they are 1 point. It looks like they are joined. They are not. They are stacked one on top of the other in space. So before I click away from anything, I will go to my object, path, and now I will join. Now again, just like the last time, the fill color filled in, but I still have a gap between my last two open points. So I need to click outside the object, make sure I am outside the object. If I start click and trying to drag inside the object, all I will do is select the object and move it. So now you can see my little border box around the 2 points. I've got those two selected, and I go through the same order of commands here. Object menu, path, average first. Go ahead and default both. Object, path, join. Now it is all one shape, but let's look at the difference here, being that in this one, when I use the menu command, I have joined them together and I only have the single point left. In this one, where I used the pen to join between the points as a segment, I still have those points in place. I have to decide, do I need those points for further markings that I might put on a pattern? So then I choose to use the pen tool. If I do not need the point for any reason, I can use my average join. The reason why we want to join these paths together is so that when we go to put our seam allowance around the shape, the computer program reads it all as one continuous shape and makes our seam allowance continuous all the way around. If they are separate halves of shapes, we will have some disjointed problems with our seam allowance. So that is why it's important to join your shape back up. I think I've covered all the aspects in this lesson. The next video lesson will show us some more about attributes and show you how to put your seam allowance on.